See, diaphragm is a dome-shaped partition which is present between thorax and abdomen. We know this very well, isn't it? So, suppose if you consider this as anterior aspect, this as posterior aspect of diaphragm. So, anterior aspect of the diaphragm is coming from the posterior aspect of xiphoid process, lower 6 ribs, okay, and posteriorly you will see we have lumbar vertebrae, isn't it? So lumbar vertebrae, see here we have the origin like this. So muscle fibers, sternal part from the posterior aspect of xiphoid process, costal part from the lower 6 ribs, lumbar part you are finding it is coming from the lumbar vertebrae. So we have right crus, left crus, and median part. See here, this is the median part, median arcuate ligament, where I am scrolling. This is medial arcuate ligament and this is lateral arcuate ligament. Medial arcuate ligament and lateral arcuate ligament. Now first when you talk about and this is right crus beta, this one is right crus, which is larger and stronger, longer and stronger because it has to pull the liver during each inspiration. This is left crus, which is little smaller. So here you will see, first of all, we are talking about the crus and crura is the same meaning. Okay. So medial lumbocostal arch or medial arcuate ligament, it is coming from, see here, if you just consider as body of the first lumbar vertebra, here you will have the lateral aspect of the body, here you will have the tip of the transverse process. From the lateral aspect of the body to the tip of the transverse process, you will have medial arcuate ligament. From the tip of the transverse process till the floating last rib, we will have lateral arcuate ligament. Okay, joining the two like medial arcuate ligaments in the midline, we have median arcuate ligament. Okay, so that means from the lumbar vertebrae we have the posterior origin. From the posterior aspect of xiphoid process, lower 6 ribs, we have anterolateral origins. Now all these muscle fibers you can see it is coming as though it is sun rays and it is converging in the middle. So this green part is the point where this diaphragm is getting inserted, which is called as central tendon of diaphragm. Central tendon. Okay. Now see here, it is something like trilobar beta, like it has this, yeah, has one lobe, this has the another lobe. Anteriorly it has one more lobe, or like tongue-like projections it has. Then you are finding there are certain openings in the diaphragm. 3 major openings are there and many minor openings are there. Major openings, I gave you one code also, I, O, A, 8, 10, 12. I in the sense inferior vena cava. It is present at the level of 8th thoracic vertebra. O is esophagus. It is present at the level of 10th thoracic vertebra. A is the opening of aorta, which is present at the level of 12th thoracic vertebra. Okay, I, O, A, 8, 10, 12. So these are the major openings. Apart from these major openings, in the inferior vena cava opening, we have phrenic nerve also passing. In the esophageal opening, we have right and left gastric arteries and accompanying veins and right and left vagus nerves. With the aorta, we have the opening of azygous vein and thoracic duct. And in the right crus, we have greater and lesser splanchnic nerves piercing. On either side, we have sympathetic chain. Associated with the lateral arcuate ligament, we have subcostal vessels and nerves. Okay, you just practice this diagram, and whatever it is shown in the diagram, you can put it in the words. Apart from that, you have to talk about like relations. Obviously, superiorly resting over the diaphragm, we have heart and lungs covered with pleura and pericardium. Inferiorly, on the right side, we have liver covered with peritoneum. On the left side, we have stomach, spleen, kidneys, and suprarenal glands. Nerve supply is phrenic nerve. Sensory nerve supply also comes from the phrenic nerve and also from lower 6 thoracic nerves. Okay. So these are the major openings what you can see. You can just also learn this table. What is the chief function of diaphragm? We know it is the principal muscle of inspiration, and all expulsive powerful acts like coughing, sneezing, laughing, crying, vomiting, parturition, passing of urine, motion, and baby, everything is like controlled by this like forceful action of diaphragm. Okay, then so development septum transversum is the partition which generally is present, no, which helps in the formation of diaphragm, which we can see from the embryology book. And apart from that, we can go with like certain defects. Sometimes, like just behind the xiphoid process, usually we have epigastric vessels and nerves passing through that opening behind. So this area may be superior epigastric vessels and nerves. Foramen of Morgagni, which may be deficient and a hole may be there. Big openings due to the non-fusion of the body wall and septum transversum will lead to big defects, okay, which is actually called as diaphragmatic hernia. The larger the defect, the more is the like movement of organs from the thorax to abdomen, from the abdomen to the thorax, okay, like that. So suppose if the like hernial size is big, then loops of intestines may enter into the thorax and it may be a surgical emergency, and if it is not treated immediately after birth, the baby may die due to the compression of lungs and heart. Okay, beta? So that is about diaphragm. This I took as a nice 1 hour lecture when I was doing theory anatomy. You can refer to that lecture also. Popliteal fossa. Where do we see?
Behind the knee.
Yeah. What are the boundaries? Superiorly and inferiorly? Do you remember?
Um,
Semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, medial head of gastrocnemius, lateral head of gastrocnemius. Okay, floor we will find popliteus. No? I'll show you the diagram, you will recollect fast. Dorsalis pedis artery is also a question, better. Dorsalis pedis artery is a continuation of which artery? Anterior tibial artery.
uh, anterior tibial artery.
Yes, better. You can see this is anterior tibial artery's continuation is dorsalis pedis artery. It can be easily accessed over the dorsum of foot and we can check the pulsations. The branches coming from the dorsalis pedis artery are anterior medial malleolar, anterior lateral malleolar, then we have medial dorsal, lateral dorsal and arcuate artery. The continuation is arcuate artery. Okay, this is about dorsalis pedis. Mm, popliteal fossa we'll see. Yes, better. These are the boundaries. So superolaterally biceps femoris, superomedially semimembranosus, semitendinosus. Infерomedially medial head of gastrocnemius, inferolaterally lateral head of gastrocnemius. In the roof you will find skin and these cutaneous nerves. Posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, posterior division of medial cutaneous nerve of the thigh, peroneal communicating nerve, and this saphenous vein, small saphenous vein which drains into popliteal vein. This is roof. In the floor, you will see the popliteal surface of the femur and popliteus muscle. Okay. Then fascia covering the popliteus muscle. Then in the contents, you have these structures, beta. Band structures like popliteal vein, popliteal artery and popliteal nerve. When you check from medial to lateral in the upper part, we have artery, vein and nerve. In the middle part, one above the other, we have nerve first, then vein, then artery. In the lower part, we have from medial to lateral, we have nerve medially, then vein, then artery. Just practice this diagram. Okay. So that is anyhow for 4 marks popliteal fossa. We also, apart from this, we have popliteal group of lymph nodes also. Then So then we will see inguinal group of lymph nodes. Where do you see inguinal group of lymph nodes, Peter? In the inguinal region. What is the type of arrangement? We have superficial and deep, isn't it? That is arranged in the
Yes,
form
ma'am.
of letter T. Letter T. Deep group of lymph nodes, you can remember that lymph node of Cloquet or Rosenmuller, what you find in the femoral triangle.
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ बेटा. Yes, this one. See, actually this is the T-shaped arrangement. Upper medial group, upper lateral group. This is the horizontal group and this is the lower vertical group. And these are the superficial group of inguinal lymph nodes. Okay. So once you like reflect this, then we will come across the deeper group. Those will be the deeper group of inguinal lymph nodes. Now see, inguinal lymph nodes, superficial inguinal group of lymph nodes. See, lower vertical group, it is like placed along both sides of the terminal part of the great saphenous vein. Okay. Then upper lateral group, then we have upper medial group. Okay, you just check what are the areas they are draining. Deeper group of lymph nodes, we have superficial, like the superficial inguinal lymph nodes will drain into deeper group. What did I say? Lymph node of Cloquet or Rosenmuller, what you find in the femoral triangle, femoral canal. Okay, so all these areas like superficial inguinal lymph nodes, popliteal nodes, glans, penis, okay, deep lymphatics, they all drain into deep inguinal group of lymph nodes. Just read this once, but a very important answer. Okay, inguinal group of lymph nodes. Development of urinary bladder is cloaca. That is the terminal part of the foregut, midgut, hindgut. Okay, we will see again once later because now we don't have that book. So again you will see the mesonephric duct, they get absorbed inside the urinary bladder forming trigone. Rest all urinary bladder is developed from cloaca. Anomalies you will see there may be hourglass type of urinary bladder, septate type of bladder, ectopic urinary bladder. Okay. Microscopic structure of lung we will see. I think it is given in thorax book. Turner syndrome, what happens beta? X0. That means what? There is
Ah,
one chromosome defective, sex chromosome, isn't it? So phenotypically, like she will be female, but secondary sexual characters will be missing. Short stature, webbed neck, no nipples, no mammary gland, no axillary hair, no pubic hair, no menstrual cycles, ovaries are straight gonads, nothing is developed. That condition. Mentally also they are not so much well developed. Turner syndrome. Arches of foot, see once again. What is epiphysis? Joining point of
the,
diaphysis and metaphysis. Just above metaphysis, we will find epiphysis,
about,
which is helping in the growth of the long bone. As long as epiphyseal cartilage is there, you will see the bone will be growing in length. Okay, so
okay.
here we will have epiphyseal arteries. Transpyloric plane also I told you recently, isn't it? The plane which is passing through the pyloric part of the stomach and also it is cutting through the hilum of both the kidneys. Okay.
Okay.
Suprapleural membrane is the Simpson's fascia. This we will open. Factors and arches of foot also I told you much in detail. What are the factors maintaining arches of foot? All long tendons they are coming from the posterior compartment of the leg and they are getting inserted into the foot, isn't it? So that
Ah,
and shape of bones they are so much irregular so that they are wedge shaped. They also maintain the arches of foot. They don't allow the foot to rest on the ground directly and they protect the underlying blood vessels and nerves, isn't it? So tibialis posterior, peroneus longus, peroneus brevis. All those are important things. So, After this, is it given and upward? Yeah. Functions, summary. Yes, beta. These five factors you should write. Shape of the bones are irregular. So muscles which are holding different segments, tie beams, okay, slings. That means all these like peroneus longus tendon, peroneus brevis tendon, tibialis posterior, plantar aponeurosis. All these factors will maintain the arches. This is tendon of tibialis posterior. Okay, beta? That is two marker only, no? Factors maintaining
Hmm.
arches of foot. Yes. Okay. So we will go with the thorax book once to check the microscopic anatomy and suprapleural membrane. Do you remember microscopic anatomy of lung beta?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
no problem. Okay, just 237 page you try to remember. 237 page. I will open suprapleural membrane. Twenty-nine. Lungs histology diagram is not given, beta. When you check the histology of lungs, you will uh, see everything we will see like cut section of the right bronchus, left bronchus, then bronchi, bronchioles, and then all empty spaces alveoli. So bronchus, when you just check, it will have pieces of hyaline cartilage, and lining epithelium will be pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Okay. Then bronchiole will have cuboidal epithelium. Then alveoli will have simple squamous epithelium. Just check once in histology book and try to learn the points. Okay?
Okay.
Functionally they are different, no? Upper part is conduction, lower part is concerned with exchange of gases. That's why upper part it is lined with pseudostratified ciliated columnar. Lower part is for exchange, that's why it is simple squamous epithelium. Suprapleural membrane is also called as Simpson's fascia. Simpson's fascia. At the apex of lungs, you will see that suprapleural membrane. See, in the cervical pleura only, you will have suprapleural membrane. It is formed by the flattening of tendon of scalenus minimus. Here you will have suprapleural membrane. Very good diagram is there. Yes, better. See, this is apex of the lung. Over the apex of the lung, you will have a membrane. You are finding here suprapleural membrane. Okay, this is also called as Simpson's fascia. It will not allow the lung to bulge out into the neck. It will act as a partition. Okay, ballooning of lungs into the neck is prevented by this suprapleural membrane, extending from the first rib to the tip of the transverse process of the seventh cervical vertebra. It is formed by the flattening of the tendon in the neck. We have a muscle called as scalenus minimus. The tendon of scalenus minimus actually flattens to form the suprapleural membrane, also called as Simpson's fascia. Okay, SIB, SIB, sun, SON, you can see here, Simpson's fascia. Okay, also called as suprapleural membrane. So that is all about today's class, beta. Okay, so
Okay, ma'am.
study well and please let me know the timings tomorrow.